Hey all, it's Nim or Nimicry if you're feeling professional, and welcome to the YouTube video. Now today, we're talking about, can we fix the Retribution Paladin? It's going to be kind of a longer video, going to be delivered in the stream style. If you're not used to seeing me stream, well, I recommend you check me out at twitch.tv/Nimicry and get acquainted. But until then, let's go over how to fix the Ret. Of course, if you enjoyed the video, leave a like and subscribe as it helps the channel grow. Without further social media nonsense, let's get into fixing the Retribution Paladin. Alright, so first, we've got our lovely Ashen Hollow. Let's demonstrate it. Boom. And as you can see, the Ashen Hollow hollows the area. It heals allies within it. It damages enemies. It also lets me throw Hammer of Wrath at 100% effectiveness. We combine... There's nothing wrong with Ashen Hollow. I like Ashen Hollow. It's okay. I would like the ability to reduce the cooldown a little bit, just so I can get it up more, and possibly, with high skill, little luck, and good play, I can have it always line up with Avenging Wrath. Now, I know that might be a pipe dream. It's fine. Because the point of this is to fix the fundamental design problems, or the fundamental problems with Ret not become the top DPS spec. Alright, next, we have Avenging Wrath, the classic, introduced in Burning Crusade. Call upon the light to become an avatar of Retribution, increasing your damage, healing, and critical strike chance by 20% for 20 seconds. I do have the Sanctified Wrath talent, so it's 25. Let's demonstrate
For those who don't know, bam, and of course
it lets me throw the Hammer of Wrath. Ah, the Hammer of Wrath. It is on cooldown, so we'll just throw some other things there, mess around. We are going to skip the blessings and the auras. We're going to go to Consecration. Now, I'm going to drop Consecration. Look at it. Yellow circle. Not all that big. Doesn't do a whole lot of damage. That's all it does. Doesn't give me a holy power. It's not movable. It doesn't move with me. It doesn't heal me. It doesn't do anything extra. It just does a little bit of damage. Honestly, Consecration, if it did anything else, it would be better. Right now, it's the literal last thing in my priority for the Paladin to cast. If anything else is up, I cast that. I don't cast Consecration. What if it maybe gave me a little bit of a damage buff? Like how when you're in Prot, it gives you a mitigation buff if you pop Shield of the Righteous while you're using Consecration. That's a thought. Let's go down to Crusader Strike. Now, Crusader Strike is our standard builder, so we'll show it. Boom, there's one, and there's two. Okay, pretty simple. It's not meant to be world-ending or anything. I think, honestly, it could use a 3 to 5% buff. Just a little bit of damage. Throw it out there. Raise the floor just that little bit. Especially since this is a burst class, you can't raise the base damage of abilities too much because then you end up things out of balance, out of whack, and then nerf hammers come a lot. I do want to mention, though, that the Retribution Paladin has not been buffed damage-wise since Shadowlands. Oh, and we've gotten a lot taken away. Oh, great. Moving down. Bubble. Love ya. Bubble. Ah, Bubble. You've saved me more times than I care to admit. Pocket Horse. Love you too. You're great. We move down to Hammer of Wrath. Now, Hammer of Wrath is our execute. You hurl a Divine Hammer that strikes an enemy for X number of holy damage, only usable on enemies that have 20% or less health, or during Avenging Wrath. Now, I like Hammer of Wrath. I think you should maybe tie it to a cooldown reduction of some type, maybe even Ashen Hollow. That way, you're encouraged to have the synergy of play, because Avenging Wrath activates your Hammer of Wrath. Ashen Hollow says your Hammer of Wrath does 100% damage. You want to encourage people to play well and clear content, throw that hammer. Throw those hammers. Bam. We throw them. I think it's good. But outside of that, not bad. I don't have any. I would like to see it raised to 25%. I know some warriors back in the day, and I don't know if it's still true now, could execute at 35%. I don't want to step on their toes, but I'd like to see it at 25% for the execute. Judgment. 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 Judgment.
Guilty as charged with the stories.
What are we going to do with you, Judgment? So right now, it judges the target, dealing X number of holy damage, and causing them to take 25% increased damage from your next holy power ability. Now, here's the thing about your next holy power ability, is that, let's rewind the clock back. Okay, and we're back. We're in Legion. There was a rework of Ret. We became Colossus / Paladin. What does that mean? That means that we'd build up our holy power to 5, hit judgment, boom, open the window and dump as much holy power in as possible. Those spenders were modified by your mastery to get an increased amount of damage, and that happened over an 8-second window. It made play different, and it was you debuffed enemies, you didn't buff yourself. So there was a skill element involved. Let's go back to BFA Judgment. Let's go back to Legion Judgment and make it all holy power abilities. That would significantly raise the floor. Because now, even if it's a part of my mastery, right now if I pull up my mastery, that's 39%. Are you kidding me? 39% increased from judgment. Perfect. Let's do that. That would fix a lot. Now you may say, but Nim, what about the Kyrian? The Kyrian can throw 5 hammers at once and judge. Yeah, but it only judges. It's 1 per target, up to 5. So, and it's only the next one. It's not the window. If it was the window, I'd probably be a Kyrian right now. I'd probably be an Elysian Hold as opposed to Sinful. Moving down, we have Shield of Righteous. Now, I know that as a Ret, I'm never going to equip a shield. But I have access to this ability as a Ret. It speaks of bad oversight to me. And it confuses and angers me. Please, don't let me have Shield of the Righteous. As a Ret, there's no reason for that. Turn Evil. Never used it in PvE. I'm sure it's useful somewhere. Moving on. Word of Glory. Now, Word of Glory will heal me. Let's pop it real quick. We can see. Boom, there's a little bit of heal. Nice. I'd like to see that switch to Eternal Flame. Now, the reason I want to see that switch to Eternal Flame is that Eternal Flame was a heal, and then it provided a hot. Both the heal and the hot scaled off your mastery. Now, this was introduced back in Mists of Pandaria, and while I understand there was a problem with the scaling, as in it was too powerful, because if you were a prot paladin who stacked mastery, you would literally be the #1 healer on the charts. I still would like to see that, for the cost, be Eternal Flame. It would improve Word of Glory dramatically. On to the Ret-specific abilities. Blade of Justice. Now, Blade of Justice pierces an enemy with a Blade of Light, dealing X number physical damage. First, that needs to be holy damage. That just flat needs to be holy damage. It's a Blade of Light. Light is not physical. I mean, granted, I probably shouldn't quibble out real-world physics in a game of Magic and things like that, but come on. It should be there. Also, it should do more damage. It generates 2 holy power. Now, let's say you're like, but Nim, I don't want it to generate either 2 holy power, I don't want it to do as much damage, or something like that. Well, reduce the range from 12 to 10 yards and give it more damage. Have it keep the same thing. Moving on to Divine Storm. Now, Divine Storm is our AoE spender. So let's show you. Boom, there it is. Just in case, and we'll do it one more time. And that unleashes a whirl of divine energy, dealing X number of holy damage up to 5 nearby enemies. Why don't we just remove the cap? Just remove the cap. Or, again, give it a 3 to 5% damage buff. It's not going to hurt. 3 to 5 damage buffs on the margins. You can end up with players with a happy medium. Moving on. Rebuke. Now, I love the Nimpact. In fact, we'll hit it right now. Boom, Nimpacted. There it is. I sometimes spam that without realizing what I'm supposed to do. Anyways, the point is that that's just a vanilla interrupt. How about we have some interaction with that? How about maybe a damage increase, or a cooldown reduction, or a defensive, or a heal, or something? Demon Hunters have that. And before you say, well, it's just unique to Demon Hunters, I have that as a Blood Elf. Arcane Torrent. Remove a beneficial effect from enemies within 8 yards and restore 1 holy power. I don't even have to eat something to get the holy power. So, throwing that out there. We're then up to Templar's Verdict. Now, Templar's Verdict is our single target spender. So let's go there, and I'll show it to you. Boom, there it is. We'll do it one more time. It'll wake ashes. So I can get there. There it is. Boom, there it is. All right, so you see that big old backhand swing. Templar's Verdict is fine as it is. I would think maybe, again, 3 to 5% damage buff. That's all it needs. It's fine. Not everything can be super interactive and super woven in. Not all classes play like that. But I like the idea of it having a 3 to 5% damage buff. Move on to, of course, Wake of Ashes. The most nerfed ability that the Paladins have ever gotten. Originally, it came out in Legion when you started to wield the Ashbringer. But now, look what it does. You lash out at your enemies, dealing X number of radiant damage to all enemies within 12 yards, and reducing their movement speed by 50% for 5 seconds. Damage reduced on secondary targets. Demons and undead are also stunned for 5 seconds, and let's show it one more time. Boom, there it is. Big old swing. And it generates 3 holy power. Now in BFA, it generated 5 holy power. In Legion, it generated 5 holy power, had a dot effect, and was 30 seconds on cooldown. I'm not asking for all of that back, but can we just go back to the BFA model where we had 5 holy power? Can we just do that instead? Because then that means I have more spenders. I potentially have more spenders. Or can maybe Wake of Ashes, when you use it, reduce the cooldown of something by 10 seconds? It's a thought. We move on to Art of War. Your auto attacks have a 24% chance to reset the cooldown of Blade of Justice. Now, that's not base. That's been buffed by a talent. I'll show you later. And then, of course, Mastery Hand of Light increases holy damage done by 39.4%. That's just based on stats. All right, moving on to talents. Talents. We're going to start off with Zeal. Zeal, Judgment empowers you with a Holy Zeal, causing your next 3 auto attacks to occur 30% faster, and deal an additional X number of holy damage. I'd buff the holy damage. Outside of that, it's fine. Righteous Verdict. Your Templar's Verdict increases the damage of your next Templar's Verdict by 15% for 6 seconds. Either make it 8 seconds or make it 20%, and it's fine. Execution Sentence. That's 3 holy power, 1 minute CD. A hammer slowly falls from the sky upon the target. After 8 seconds, they suffer X number of holy damage, plus 20% of the damage taken from your abilities in that time. Similar to a Judgment window that was removed from Judgment. Just give it back to Judgment. I don't mind Execution Sentence. It's fine the way it is, but let's give that ability back to Judgment. Fires of Justice. Reduces the cooldown of Crusader Strike by 15%, and grants it a 15% chance to make your next ability consume 1 less holy power. Okay. Make that 20% on the ability. The 15% cooldown reduction is fine. I've used Fires of Justice before with a decent amount of haste. It's never actually on cooldown. You can always, if you wanted to, spam Crusader Strike. Now, why you would? I don't know, but you could. Blade of Wrath. Now, if you remember, I had said that my Art of War was buffed, and this is what buffed it. Art of War resets the cooldown of Blade of Justice 100% more often, and increases the damage by 25%. So even the damage that was low on Blade of Justice has been buffed by 25%. Honestly, I'd like to see that particular thing be a passive. Or, if not the damage component, at least have it be 25% for Art of War baseline. Empyrean Power. Crusader Strike has a 15% chance to make your next Divine Storm free and deal 25% additional damage. I would say make Crusader Strike chance 20% and deal 20% additional damage. That way you don't even have to, you can say, oh, well, we don't want to do too much damage. Okay, I can understand that. I really can understand that, because right now I'm not doing too much damage. I'm not doing terrible. I'm not bottom DPS by any means, and I have a pretty good raid group. But everyone's like, Ret? Really? Ret? Okay. Fist of Justice, Repentance, and Blinding Light. I'm going to ignore this tier. It's all CC, but I do use Fist of Justice generally in PvE content. Unbreakable Spirit is useful. I like it the way it is. Cavalier, Pocket Horse, having 2 charges. Can't beat it. I don't really use Eye for an Eye compared to Cavalier, because Cavalier is just much better utility. Longtime viewers of the channel will know that when I saw that Divine Purpose was coming back to Paladins on all specs, I was excited. It's literally the most viewed video on my YouTube channel. I've been talking about the Shadowlands Alpha for Paladin. Here's the thing. Holy Power abilities have the 15% chance to make your next Holy Power ability free and deal 20% increased damage and healing. I like that. Just make it 20%. Or before, if I remember correctly, Divine Purpose just used to be 35% chance to have your next ability free. It didn't do increased damage. It didn't do increased healing. It just, the next one was free. It's just another one in a chain. And I think most players would like to have more spenders and less gaps in their downtime, especially because depending on how you design the raid fights, I might have a lot of time on a boss, or I might not have a lot of time on a boss. And they'd like to be able to spam what they can. I want to smash with Templar's Verdict into Sire Denathrius as often as possible. Next, Holy Avenger. Your holy power generation is tripled for 20 seconds. Fine. Every other GCD is a spender. Fine. I'd like to see that at a 2-minute cooldown. You could macro it maybe to wings, but whatever. Can't fix everything. Seraphim. Now, Seraphim is an interesting spender. It's 45 seconds, it costs 3 holy power, and it only lasts for 15 seconds. So the light magnifies your power for 15 seconds, granting 8% haste, critical strike, and versatility, and 13% mastery. Now, if that was a 50% duty cycle, meaning it lasted for, it was up for so much time, it was up for 15 seconds, and the cooldown was 30, it would be better. But as it is right now, I don't know anybody who actually uses that. Maybe there might be a build that somewhere sims that uses Executions and Seraphim and Final Reckoning. I don't know what that is right now, but I'm sure someone somewhere has a combination of gear and skill that works for. Selfless Healer. Your holy power spending abilities reduce the cast time of your next flashlight by 25% and increases its healing done by up to 10%. Done by 10%. Stacks up to 4 times. Perfect. Fine the way it is. Justicar's Vengeance. Now, I've never used this in PvE. I remember when it was introduced in Legion, it originally focused it was 5 holy power, which I was like, wow, that's a lot. Focuses holy energy to deliver a powerful weapon strike, deals X number of holy damage, and restores health equal to damage done. I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. And the damage used to be 100% increased against stunned targets. The problem is that's definitely a PvP talent that's somewhere in my PvE content. Now, let's say I could put the boss in a stun-like state, similar to how Brain Freeze treats a Frost Mage's next spell as firing at a target as if it were frozen. Now, it may not actually be frozen, but it's treated as if it's frozen. Then that might actually be not bad. Still, though, it's 5 holy power. It would have to be 100%. Because for 5 holy power, that's 1 in 66% of a spender. And of course, Healing Hands. Lay on Hands reduced by 60% based on the target's missing health. And Word of Glory's healing is increased by 100% based on target's missing health. I use it. It's great. No beef. Sanctified Wrath. Now, Avenging Wrath lasts 25% longer. During Avenging Wrath, each holy power spent causes you to explode with holy light for X number of damage to nearby enemies. Now, that second part originally wasn't part of Sanctified Wrath. That was from Empyrean Power, an Azerite trait in Battle for Azeroth. This talent proves that Blizzard understands that abilities should have some level of interaction. I just don't have wings up and do extra damage. I also do extra damage because I spent something. So if I built my holy power or popping wings, I'm going to eke out just a little bit more DPS. Crusade. I love Crusade. Calls upon the light to begin a crusade, increasing your damage done and haste by 3% for 20 seconds. Each holy power spent during crusade increases damage done by an additional 3%, maximum 10 stacks. Now, the thing is, I used Crusade for all of Legion and all of Battle for Azeroth. The reason I used Crusade is because I had abilities such as Vision of Perfection that would let me enter Avenging Wrath randomly. So it worked. I'd get 8 to 10 seconds of Crusade, I'd dump holy power into it, and I'd see these spikes. It would essentially, those spikes would raise the floor on the DPS and make it a better performing class. Or at least better looking on the meters. Nobody wants to invite the bottom DPS or near bottom. They want to look at the top stuff. Now, of course, depending on that, depending on the group you're in, well, then just play with a worse group. No! I miss Crusade, but right now, because of Sanctified Wrath, increased duration on Avenging Wrath, and the Mad Paragon legendary I use, increase on Avenging Wrath, Sanctified Wrath just works too well. And actually lowers the skill level of the Paladin. Because you at least had to manage a little, you had to build up your Crusade stacks. You couldn't just mindlessly hit buttons. And of course, Final Reckoning. It's 30 yards, a minute cooldown. Call down a blast of heavenly energy, dealing X number of holy damage to all targets in the target area. Causing them to take 50% increased damage from your holy power abilities for 8 seconds. And it's a passive when it's off cooldown. Your attacks have a high chance to call down a bolt that deals X number of holy damage and causes the target to take 10% increased damage from your next holy power ability. Again, all abilities for 8 seconds there. They really want you to not have that on tap. And of course, I'm sure you could use an Execution Sentence Final Reckoning build. It doesn't sim well for me. I've tried, especially as a Venthyr with the gear I have. The build that I'm running right now is optimal DPS. At least last time I simmed it. I like the idea of that, but I want it on Judgment too. Just make it stack to the Mastery. Or, I don't know, maybe the Haste or the Critical Strike, whatever you want, but just give that ability to Judgment. Make it all ability. That way, again, you smooth out these peaks and valleys. Especially because, let's hypothetically say, you're killing a boss, right? Boom, boom, boom. And you get hit with a mechanic. Well, you gotta move. There's no way to reset stuff. All of your stuff is on cooldown, and now you have to wait. Now you feel bad. Now your parse is bad. Now people don't invite you. You may say, but Nim, that's catastrophizing. That's catastrophizing. You went to therapy not to catastrophize. You're right. I did, and I'm fine. I'm okay. But that scenario happens. Now, I'm not saying you should never be hit by a mechanic while you're under cooldown. No. But it should be less punishing. Or there should be ways to get your cooldowns back. Or there should be some type of mechanism that lets you recover. And of course, some pools you're just going to be bottom of the DPS, or you're going to be in the middle, or you're not going to do RNG. That's the nature of RNG. But it could feel better. And right now, because there's literally nothing in our toolkit that gives us power outside of wings, and in my case, hollow, that's all I got. On to the legendary powers, friends. So, the legendary powers are the new thing in Shadowlands, where you get memories and you can put them on certain pieces of rune-carved gear. It's not a bad idea, especially since they weren't random drop. You knew where you could get them and how you could get them. And as you can see, I've got a bunch. So, let's go over them real quick. Tempest the Lightbringer, of course, Divine Storm projects an additional wave of light, striking all enemies up to 20 yards in front of you for 20% of Divine Storm's damage. That is not AoE target capped. So, there's proof that Divine Storm cannot have a target cap and it doesn't break the game. Just do that. Just do that. Just let Divine Storm not have a target cap. I mean, realistically, how often am I going to have more than 5 enemies on me? Probably not a lot. But maybe. I don't know. The thing is, give players the freedom to do it. If they break your game and have fun, they keep playing. Vanguard's Momentum. Hammer of Wrath has 1 extra charge and increases holy damage done by 3% for 8 seconds, stacking 3 times. So, that means I can throw 2 hammers. Okay, it's not bad. So, instantly, throw 1. Second, later, throw the second one. So, I'm already doing 6% holy damage. And then I can, I can keep it stacked and keep moving. The problem is that that's like a great secondary legendary. It's not powerful enough to make it to that top tier. Tempest is. Tempest is powerful enough to make it to that top tier. Another one on here that's powerful enough for that. Final Verdict. From what I understand, this is used a lot in PvP. Replaces Templar's Verdict with a devastating strike that deals X number of holy damage and has a 15% chance to activate Hammer of Wrath and reset its cooldowns. Honestly, I would say make that 20%. And it's fine. One last note on Vanguard's Momentum I forgot to mention is that if they would increase the duration, let's say to 12 seconds, might be more useful. Especially because if you can eke out that last hammer and keep the stack going, you've got extra holy damage for outside of your wings for another, maybe, let's say, 11 seconds. And of course, there are GCDs, so you're not going to get the full 11 seconds out of the damage, but whatever. Of Dusk and Dawn. If Underwhelming was a legendary, I present to you Of Dusk and Dawn. When you reach 5 holy power, you gain Blessing of Dawn. You reach 0 holy power, you gain Blessing of Dusk. Blessing of Dawn. Damage and healing increased by 6% for 8 seconds. Blessing of Dusk. Damage taken reduced by 3% for 8 seconds. If they doubled those numbers, or even tripled those if they tripled those numbers, I would consider making it. I'd have to math it out. But that, by and large, is just not good. The Magistrate's Judgment. Judgment has a 75% chance to reduce the cost of your next holy power spender by 1. That should be 100%. This should say Judgment has a chance to reduce the cost of your next holy power spender by 1. Especially if you don't have the Judgment window like you did in Legion and BFA. I think it should be 1. Relentless Inquisitor. Spending holy power grants you 1% per finisher for 12 seconds, stacking up to 5 times. That was a reworked Azurite trait. It used to stack up 20 times, but it was per holy power spent. Here's the thing. That should last 20 seconds or stack to 10 times. It's not bad otherwise. On to the legendary that I use, the Mad Paragon. Hammer of Wrath deals 30% additional damage and extends the duration of Avenging Wrath by 1 second. Now, in Torghast, there is an ability called Badge of the Mad Paragon. It extends the duration of Avenging Wrath by 3 seconds. That should be the power of the Mad Paragon. Do that, and the Mad Paragon is absolutely 100% fixed. Echo of Anar. Your spells and abilities have a low chance to summon a spiritual familiar to your side, increasing your damage by 10%, your healing by 10%, or your damage reduction by 10% for 10 seconds, based on your roll. This effect is duplicated on up to 3 allies at 50% effectiveness, preferring allies with the same roll. Again, if I could equip 4 legendaries, that might be my 4th. That might, but I can't. And I probably will never be able to equip 4 legendaries, because even at the end of Legion, they would not let us equip all of our legendaries at one time. They let us have 2. And then there will be a final note on that later. Judgment of the Arbiter. Dealing damage has a high chance to release a blast of spiritual energy for X number of shadow damage. If another ally who bears the Judgment of the Arbiter is within 5 to 20 yards of you, the blast will also arc to them, dealing X number of shadow damage to enemies in the arc. That's not a bad idea. I see where they're going for. They're going for the Wad ring, the Khadgar ring, where, you get there, everybody pops cooldowns, they pop the ring, boom, 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 tunnel, DPS on the boss, and then it explodes in a secondary burst of damage. You could do a whole lot of damage with that. The problem is, that was really good, and everyone had it. I don't know how many people will have Judgment of the Arbiter. I don't know how it would math out to have a whole raid do that. But that's a lot of Torghast to find out. Be nice if we could experiment without it. That's not just a Paladin idea, but this power isn't that great. Norganon's Sagacity. Casting a spell grants Sagacity. Stacking up to 10 times. When you move, you are able to cast while moving for 0.5 seconds for each stack of Sagacity. Not bad. Good for Holy. I don't see what it has to do with Ret. Stable Phantasmalore. I'm not even going to bother with that. That is Torghast only. Third Eye of the Jailer. Killing an enemy grants you the Third Eye, increasing your strength by 1% for 10 seconds, stacking up to 7, and increasing the duration by 1 second for each additional stack. The duration of Third Eye is increased by 50% while in the Maw. Okay, not bad. Again, do I have a 4th legendary? Vitality Sacrifice. Taking significant damage from a player or elite enemy increases your damage and healing by up to 3% of the damage taken, up to a maximum of 9% for 20 seconds. This effect can only occur every 30 seconds. So it's 66% uptime, provided every 20 seconds you're getting smacked. Again, do I have a 4th legendary? Maw Rattle. Killing an enemy has a high chance to summon an explosive Maw Rat at the corpse's location. After 6 seconds, the Maw Rat will explode, dealing X number of nature damage to all nearby enemies, poisoning them and decreasing their damage done by 5% for 10 seconds. Not even in open world content is that good. It needs to be buffed significantly. I mean, decrease their damage by 20%, or more damage, or give you damage, or something that's... It's not good the way it is. It's just not. That's a problem. Uther's Devotion. Your Blessing of Freedom, Blessing of Sacrifice, and Blessing of Protection cooldowns are reduced by 1 second per holy power spent. You got it! You got it! See, right there! It's right there! They understand the idea of interplay with abilities. Meaning, as I spend my holy power, I get stuff back. Maybe every 20 holy power you spend, you get 2 seconds off Avenging Wrath. Or every 30 holy power you spend, you get 3 seconds off Ashen Hollow, something. But the idea is that that works together. Instead, they have these on your blessings, which, don't get me wrong, they're great, they're utility, but utility doesn't kill bosses. Utility makes it easier to kill bosses. Utility allows you to recover from problems. Utility allows you to solve things before they would become problems, but it doesn't actually kill the boss. Throughput. Utility will always lose to throughput, especially as gear levels come up. Especially as progress, you can have a little stronger heals, or a little stronger DPS, or a little stronger tanks, and then you can muscle it down, and then it's like, okay, we can kill this 5% faster because we brought another DPS as opposed to utility. Sefu's Proclamation, final legendary power. Reduce the effectiveness of crowd controlling effects by 10%, successfully applying a loss of control effect to an enemy, interrupting an enemy, or dispelling an enemy. Any target will increase your secondary stats by 80 for 15 seconds. This effect cannot occur once or more than once every 30 seconds. So, we say that, and again, smart play is being rewarded. Why isn't that baseline? And then maybe you give that ability more power, more oomph, more actual, make it 800. And guess what's happening? You're fighting over interrupts. There's no longer an interrupt problem in random dungeons. Anyway, on to our final segment of here. What do I think should be done? First, give us some way to get more Avenging Wrath. Whether that be a Vision of Perfections, similar thing. Whether that be a cooldown reduction. Whether you make Avenging Wrath baseline longer. We need that as Rets so that we can have more damage. Second, implement some of the changes I mentioned. A nice 3 to 5% damage buff across the board isn't game-breaking. It'll help the community perception of Rets. They'll get invited to other stuff. They're like, oh, they just got buffed. Okay, yeah, bring them in. It's fine. And they'll find out that, yeah, your dungeon was fine. And odds are, if they'd had that the week before when they didn't have that 3 to 5% buff, they'd have been fine too. But as you know, the community is slave to the meta. And the reason they're slave to the meta is because they're taught to look at performance. And of course, you want to get things down. I'm not mad at the community for that. I'm just saying that if we know it's a problem, and we know it's going to be a problem in the future, let's head off the problem at the past. Anyways, guys, as you can see, I'm rather passionate about the Retribution Paladin. I've played it for years. I love it. It's my favorite spec on my favorite class. Did I miss anything? Any ideas? Anything that you think I should have included? Let me know in the comments below. And of course, if you like the video, keep subscribe, like, do all the social media stuff, and I'll see ya. Tell me what you thought about the streaming style video where it's just me kind of talking into a camera as opposed to having a proper script written out. I'd be curious to your feedback. My name was Nim. Keep gaming and enjoy life. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.